Welcome to the Butler Did It. I'm your host, Adam Butler, back with another episode. Thank you so kindly for being here, man. Okay. One, is hot as hell in my studio. I don't know why. I gotta figure this out. Okay, so forgive me. And also, man, there's been a lot going on over the past week. A lot of conversations been going on over the past week. A lot of comments, and I appreciate it. But thank you for watching anything I put out, man. Seriously. Someone once told me that you shouldn't be like thanking people all the time on the mic, you know, because I won't go there. I thank my audience because I know how hard it is and how difficult to even get one person to watch this show. So anybody that watches Real Anything, thank you. I say it every week. And especially thank you for last week because the debate on the Ebony K. Williams video was healthy. It was spirited. And there were a lot of different opinions. So much so that I feel like later on in the show, I feel like I'm going to need to address it. Clarify some things. Because I think I was misunderstood a little bit by some black men. And the goal of that one was to encourage black men and help black men understand something. So I'm going to say some of y'all misunderstood me. And if you didn't misunderstand me and you just see it another way, I find that odd. I will address that later. But before that, we're going to be talking about black men's fashion and how it intertwines with masculinity. And I have an amazing guest joining me today, my man Devon, aka the Fashion Citizen, at Fashion Citizen on all social platforms, is here, man. He's an expert on all things fashion, present, past, and future. And he's going to be able to kind of like speak on this from a professional standpoint, places that I just can't go. I love clothes. I love expressing myself through clothing, sneakers. I host a sneaker podcast. Check out one of those podcasts. You know what to do. I made a documentary about sneaker culture. I love streetwear. I love black fashion. I think that fashion is, synonymous with black culture. I think that's how we speak. I think it's an art form. I love it. But I can't sit here and say like I'm a high fashion dude. I just like to express myself in some small way or sometimes a larger way through fashion. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this today is because I do find it odd that at the same time we're seeing like this, what I'm calling a revolution in black fashion, especially in black men's fashion. Black men are no longer afraid to go there with certain things. Anything with art, because I do consider fashion art. And I do think we wear art pieces on a daily basis. And especially if you choose, and you can choose to do that. I choose to do that. Even in the most subtle ways, I have to express myself somehow on a daily basis. And if you want to consider fashion art, then art will make you uncomfortable sometimes. Art will make you laugh sometimes. Art will make you smile sometimes. Art will make you angry sometimes. I wonder if that's what we're seeing with some of the choices that some men are making with their clothing. Now, I do understand that there's a deeper conversation when it comes to masculinity. There's a deeper conversation about gender that I think is another conversation. So I want to put that out there right now, that there is a whole other conversation about, sexuality, gender, things like that I'm not going to include in this conversation. Because I think that the conversation gets muddied and muffled too much. Some would disagree because some would say, well, that's how I am expressing that part of myself through my clothes. And I say, word up. I think you should do whatever you want. That's my stance when it comes to fashion and clothing, art, right? As long as you're not vulgar. Depending on where you are, by the way, vulgar, the line for what's vulgar shifts, right? But I think we can pretty much determine what is vulgar, where is wearing something, what's inappropriate, right? As long as you're not being vulgar and inappropriate, I don't care what you put on your body. But some people do. And I've been thinking about this a lot. I've had debates with my friends about it. I have friends that watch and listen to this show that are going to go, oh man, he talking about that thing we was talking about. In a way I am. I've had debates about it. I've seen people online who are just confused by things. And I appreciate that it is a culture shock. We older millennials, I'm 41 years old, right? I think the millennial age gap starts at like 81. I was born at 82, or maybe it starts at 82. I can't remember. Either way, I'm like on the very end of the millennial. We millennials have seen so much. You've seen that interesting meme about like all the tragedies we've seen on like 9/11 and wars and all this and that. But it's also, we've seen a lot of culture shifts. And if you're black and if you're a black male, you've seen a lot of culture shifts within hip hop culture, street culture, black culture, and just fashion culture. When we were coming up, it was baggy clothes. It was a lot of like hip hop culture that was influenced by the streets, that was influenced by jail culture. To just keep it real, that's where the baggy pants and all that comes from. There's great documentaries out there, and I'll try to reference some in the comments and in the description. There's great documentaries out there that really explain why dudes were wearing like what Onyx and like, you know, some of the early 90s hip hop groups, Red Man, you know, like the all denim, the baggy denim with the white tee and the baggy pants, the boots and the hat. That's jail look. Then you started getting into the like the Tommy and the Ralph Lauren look. That was all inspired by Sporty Thieves and people that were, quite frankly, bootlegging that stuff. Right? We had bootleg fashion. We all know about Dapper Dan and all that. That's the 80s, obviously, but we all understand the influence of that. Then you kind of got into the luxury look. You're talking about Diddy and the suits and the, you know, the Versace, Biggie walking around with Versace, Jay-Z with Versace on, that look. Then you get the whole DMX era where it's like, again, that street look, that gutter look, that grimy look, right? You get into the 2000s, you got Nelly walking around with a Band-Aid on the face. All this represents masculinity, or what we perceive to be masculinity, right? Even NBA guys, Allen Iverson, walk around big giant jerseys on, headbands on, dressing. I always thought that the headband thing and the armbands was funny because you're just wearing like medical gear basically, but that's all influenced by what we see on the streets and what we see, what we inspired by on the court, basketball, sports. All these things go together. I can go on and on and on. You go to the 2000s, then you get the little change clothes and go look, right? The grown and sexy look, right? You know, the fitted cap with the button up shirts. You want to look like an executive. You know, you got that kind of Russell Simmons thing going on. Then you get to the skinny jeans and the skateboarder look. I could go on and on. And now we're on something different. And I think that you got the kind of like Raf Simons thing and the kind of like golf look. You got a lot of like earthy, Afrocentric looks going on right now. And he got a lot of like high fashion, like, yo, I'm just going to dress it up. I'm in Paris on the runway and I'm going to wear every piece that I think is cool, even if it looks weird to you. And I support that. I support black men expressing themselves in any way possible. Why do I support black men expressing themselves in any way possible? Because we haven't been able to. A lot of the things that we were doing, even if you weren't like the hip hoppy, baggy pants, big t-shirt, you know, look, you was probably just rocking a blue collar look. And you were probably just rocking that normal blue collar look because you didn't want to be noticed. Because the guys were walking around with the hoodie on, you know, remember when the Trayvon thing was going on, the hoodie became a big piece of the conversation, right? But the guys that were walking around with that uniform on of I represent the streets, I'm about hip hop, got a lot of attention and a lot of negative attention. Let's just keep it real. The guys that were a little more subtle, a little more conservative in their look didn't get attention. And for a black man, that's a choice to make. Do you want to get attention? You know, I talk about that self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Where, all right, you're going to say I'm a nigga and I'm the worst, then I'm going to be that. And I'm not judging because I wore those things, right? And I still wear streetwear. I still do. To this day, I'm 41 and I still wear streetwear. And there's a lot of judgment on that. Dressed like a 41-year-old, right? Dressed like a dad. Either way. It's a choice to make. I'm going to be that thing that America says I am, and I'm going to represent it. I'm going to turn it on its head, sort of like the N-word. Or I'm not going to be that thing. I don't want to be noticed. I want to be left alone. I don't want to be pulled over by the police. I don't want to be looked at crazy when I'm in the store. So I'm going to blend in with society. That's my opinion on it. I think nowadays, especially after the Black Lives Matter movement, after 2020, after all the things, and it started before 2020, if I'm being honest with you, but the pandemic is always like this kind of like this like a bookmark for everything, right? And I've noticed it more since 2020, but really since the Black awakening started happening in the mid 2010s, police shootings, a Black president, the election of Trump, all sorts of just traumatic and great things happening all at the same time. I think that Black people really started just embracing being Black. It's not so much embracing like I'm African. It's not. It's close to what was going on in the 70s. It's not quite the same. I believe in the 70s it was a lot of like representing the motherland, representing African culture, but also Black and proud. So I guess it is sort of the same. And we've been innovating fashion for a long time. But I think that when you get to the mid 2010s and all the stuff is going on, Black men, Black women, people of color in general just started saying, you know what? I was about to curse. I'll try not to curse so much on the show. Forget social norms. And I'm just going to express myself in any way possible. You're seeing it in many ways, the way people practice spirituality, sexuality, everything. I'm going to do me. And the same thing goes with fashion and the way men express themselves through their clothing. You want to be comfortable. You also want to stand out, and you want to stand out in a dope way. And that's matured into now. This is just fashion. It's art, and I love it. And I love it. As I said before we get to our guests, we've been innovating fashion and American culture, period, but innovating fashion since we stepped off the boat. But if you really want to get technical, look at the Harlem Renaissance. Look at how people were dressing back then. Look at how people were dressing in the 60s and the 70s, as I mentioned. We weren't always walking around with just big baggy clothes on, and we were expressing ourselves for a long time. Okay. So I think this is a good thing. You may not. I'd love to hear your opinion on it. Seriously, I'd like to know what you all think about it. I know what Devon thinks, so let's hear from Devon, aka the Fashion Citizen, right now. Devon, what up, man?
Not too much, man. How you been?
I've been really good. It's funny we just had this whole conversation off mic, so we won't. But I've been good, man. It's good to see you, bro. It's good to have you for this one. For the folks that don't know, you known as Mr. Fashion Citizen on social platforms, man. You are an expert, and I mean that, by the way. That's why I wanted to reach out to you about this subject, because you are an expert when it comes to not only just fashion in general, but I think you're knowledgeable when it comes to what's coming next, right? What's coming up next. And I want to try to get into this one in a way that makes sense, right? I did a whole thing about it, but there's with Black men, right? Mm-hmm. I think like with Black people in general, there's been like a awakening, for lack of a better term, right? We've been more free. We've been less restricted by these social norms and such, right? And I think that Black women have been ahead of us on that, but Black men are starting to get there. And one way we're really starting to express ourselves is through our clothing, through our fashion, right? First off, before I get to what I really want to ask, would you agree with that? Do you think that there's like a bit of a revolution happening in terms of like Black men's clothing?
I do. I think that partly the pandemic really kind of threw a lot of things out of whack, and then pushed a lot of stuff into it, like pushing things forward at the same time. And I think with Black men, Black people in general are always the leaders of fashion and entertainment, whether we're paid for it or recognized. That is worldwide knowledge that Black people kind of move entertainment and fashion forward, or we keep it where it is.
Yeah.
And I think with as far as Black men, one of the advents of the Black male style evolution is, to me, the NBA tunnel. Because it went from, just a means of getting to one, locker room to stadium, to like, these are like, oh, James Harden, what does he have on tonight? Oh, Russell Westbrook has this on. Jordan Clarkson rather, is who's one of my favorite NBA players. Never seen him play a day in his life, but I enjoy his style.
Yeah, Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah, definitely. Kyle is probably like on the far spectrum of like, he's a fashionable guy. He doesn't care. He's going to do, like, he's editorial. Even if he's going to play a game, that's not even his job per se. But I think that things like that, and artists like Lil Uzi Vert, A$AP Rocky, have given Black men more freedom to express themselves in ways that we might not have before.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I'm glad you brought up the tunnel, because I actually mentioned that on my other podcast, on my sneaker podcast, that the tunnel, even like for me, a sneakerhead, right? The tunnel has become the place where, all right, I might not be sure about those sneaks, but oh man, LeBron is actually like modeling the sneakers coming out the tunnel, right? LeBron's another one that's a pretty fashionable guy as well. But there's also this aspect of these hyper masculine men, athletes, right? That's just because it's not just NBA tunnel, it's the NFL tunnel. There's a whole account I follow that just features like athletes, male and female athletes, just in their fashion, right?
Right.
These hyper masculine men, NFL players, linebackers, and guys that are known for just being like the most masculine, what we think to be the most masculine people in the world.
Right.
Who are not walking around with just like, hoodies and baggy clothes and what we used to consider like thug gear, right? They're wearing textures, they're wearing, they, like you said, they're dealing with high fashion. Even with that though, have you noticed that there's a bit of a pushback from some Black men in regards to what is like masculine clothing and what isn't considered masculine clothing?
For sure. I mean, even like following League Fits and a couple of the other different accounts, you'll see, like, for instance, I know the guys that normally get the most pushback are Kyle Kuzma, Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook gets dog.
Yeah.
And even James Harden, it's like, what does he got? Like, when he had a Marnie sweater, the Marnie fuss bed, the fuzzy little mules. He had the Tom bag with the leather flowers on it. That bag is like some astronomical price, but like, he brought it to the game. Probably wasn't, I don't know what was even in it. I'm like, dude,
nothing.
You got like your towel and your washcloths and stuff in there. But I mean, he did it. And you got guys saying like, man, that's crazy. Or man, he wow. Russell Westbrook had a sweater on, but like the center was cut out or something. And or when Kuzma wore the Rick Owens big jacket and it was the whole thing. Definitely you see hypermasculinity. I think it manifests itself in that way because you have these men who are doing a job that has always been considered masculine. It's sports. It's even like the MLB players or the soccer players. You got Lewis Hamilton, who is a driver, who just recently had on a Rick Owens, like a not a jumpsuit, but like a Rick Owens union suit, kind of like, but it was sequin. But he looked great, and he's a very flashy man, Lewis Hamilton. But I think guys manifest it in that way because it's either something that they wish they could do, something that they don't feel comfortable with their sports people doing, or it's just, speaks to their own insecurity. So I never feel like it's a problem with the person. It's always the person expressing it has something to work out with themselves, and they're manifesting it by telling this person, you make my uncomfortabilities visible, so I don't like this.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, man. I wonder about where this started, right? Because, we came up in the 90s and the 2000s. And I mean, the way we dressed, I can't speak for you, the way I dressed, the way people I was surrounded by dress, it was basically what rapper, Beanie Siegel, Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, the baggiest, and it all was kind of representative of street culture, drug dealing culture. And if anything, it was just blue collar culture. If you weren't dressing like a rapper, you were just dressing like a blue collar guy, jeans, sweater, hoodie, practical clothing, and if you can make it fashionable, cool, right? But now there's this shift happening, but it's not anything new. Whenever I get an argument, right, and I've been in big debates. In fact, there's people are going to listen to this show I know are going to be like, man, you talking about something we talked about, but I got to do what I got to do. I always bring up like old pictures of the Ozzy brothers, old pictures of this wearing like just like,
Very true. Same here.
right. So it's not anything new. If anything, that blue collar like kind of look is probably or that streetwear look is kind of the newer thing. However, we have transitioned. Some of us have transitioned to this more eccentric, more artsy look.
Mm-hmm.
I know you say the tunnel and some of these things is where we start to see it visually, but as a fashion expert, where do you think the shift began where people said, I'm going to go from baggy t-shirt to fitted to stylish to high fashion?
It's funny you ask that because I read something recently that basically talked about the evolution of a stylist. Like stylists were not always a thing. Back in the day with actors, the studios would dress them. So if you did a movie, when you did red carpet, studio costume designer like Marilyn Monroe, Edith Head, who did a lot of movies. Edith would design the costumes for the movie, and then when you went to the red carpet, she would design the gown that you wore to the red carpet. And then after a while, you got different designers saying, "Oh, this is Cher, this is Barbara Streisand, this is Humphrey Bogart, this is this person. I'm gonna dress them." Now, not so much for the men until recently or recent years, meaning like the last maybe 15, 20 years. But they were doing that. So then after a while, you got fashion houses saying, wait a minute, this dress that this person wore got a bunch of press, but nobody can buy it. So people are making it or making things like it, and the money is going to whoever they get the materials from. So design houses are like, well, wait a minute, we can put a dress on Nicole Kidman, and then somebody can go out and buy that, and we can make money off that. Boom. The go-between is the stylist, because the fashion houses want to be able to spread out through a bunch of different avenues to work with people. Mm-hmm. So I think what really changed it was fashion houses realizing that these people were conduits for revenue. Okay. And so now you've got people who were just playing ball, who that was their dream. That's what they wanted to do. And they're like, hey, Jordan, listen, you're Jordan Clarkson. You look cool. You're a tall guy. You really would look great in Rick Owens. So listen, we're going to send you the fall collections. Style it however you want, but we need you to wear these pieces. Hey, Kyle Kuzma, we need you to wear this. And of course, they're getting free clothes. They're probably getting a little money on the back end. The stylist is gaining prominence because if Kyle Kuzma wears the jacket that was just on the runway yesterday and I'm a stylist, right, I rise in prominence. My price goes up, so yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, man. Again, I see what you're saying, because again, it starts from the celebrity or the popular person, and that kind of influences what normal average people are going to wear, right? Because we're not all walking around Rick Owens and high fashion things. So some people, some people are into that and going to be able to cop that. I have certain pieces and certain watches and pieces of jewelry and things, and especially sneaks and stuff like that cost a grip, and some people would never do that, right? But one thing I've noticed, even with like thrifting culture, right, where people start to go to the thrift, and where I think it's more about like comfortability, being comfortable. And then and I might be reaching, I might be going out on a limb here, but that's why I have you here to reel me back if I'm tripping. I think that this embracing of our African culture, frankly, or like our African American culture, right, tapping back into the 70s, right? Tapping back into the 60s with the knit polos and things like that, right? Jewelry, men are embracing jewelry more, right? Just things that are, you see people with the kind of like the Marvin Gaye look. I have to say, like, the beanie hats, and like, I think that it's just, it's Black people on all levels just trying to find a way to express themselves, and also saying, I'm going to be comfortable. I'm not really about to be, I'm not going to put on for lack of a better term, the monkey suit, nothing against a suit, obviously, but I'm not going to put on the uniform for you. I'm going to be comfortable at all times. What do you think about that?
I agree 100%. I think our forefathers, mothers, aunts, uncles, and all of that, when they went out to the club, they were dressed to the nines, but they were dancing. They came out sweaty, and they had dresses and heels and 3-piece suits and afros that was perfect, like jewelry, they
Yeah.
makeup. The guys had fresh cuts, but they went to the club to dance. They went to the restaurants to look good and to be stylish. And I think that we are getting back to that because if we're honest, like style got a little lazy for a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us. It was just we were at the club in jeans and try to throw a little lace up on with it,
Yeah.
and it's like oh, this is cool because it was like the little university Poindexter kind of style. And then
Yeah.
we saw that shift with the celebrity culture. They
Yeah.
were wearing high end. They were
Yeah.
wearing, dresses and Dior, and the guys were in Versace. Biggie and Puff would, that bad boy era. And it was like, wait a minute. Jay-Z was like, we changing clothes and going. We
Yeah.
not wearing that no more. And it was like, oh, so
Yeah.
we got to do it. And I mean, as high fashion goes, we tend to follow suit. And most the middle to your lower tier designers are going to follow that because everybody, like you said, can't go to Bergdorf's or Barney's,
Yeah.
but everybody can go to the mall and find your favorite, store, and you can find those pieces that put you in line with what you want to wear.
Yeah, I think that's it, man. Yeah, man, I agree with you. One last thing before I let you go, man. I mentioned earlier, and I've been talking about in my little monologue throughout the show, about fashion and restriction on black men to express themselves. And again, it shouldn't matter about sexuality or anything like that. We're just talking about being able to express yourself and not being able to be put in that box. It's funny you mentioned earlier about like how we used to, dress to the club. I saw this meme a while back that said millennials used to wear work clothes to the club, right? They had all these
Oh my
people just
God.
wear like, yeah. I thought I showed it to my wife. We had a good laugh because I'm sure I could find a picture of myself with a pea coat on and like my,
Oh my,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah,
The
and it's
peacoat was a staple.
yeah, for real, man. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Fashion changes, right? But just what I'm seeing from people, and I could name about 5 different friends of mine, black men that have 5 different styles.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I love about it is that all 5 of them are expressing themselves in some way. There's a piece in there that's just expressive. There's something that is for them, right? It's something that's about them. What would you just say? What's your commentary on black men expressing themselves through this art form we call fashion?
I think it's about time. It's about time brothers got comfortable with themselves and what they like. Your clothing is just that, it's clothing. There's no uh, monetary, there's no class associated with it. There's no sexuality associated with it. I mean, for being facetious, of course, there's certain pieces that are yes feminine or made, designers making skirts and all that kind of stuff, and that's a whole other debate and a whole
Yeah.
other thing. But for the most part, clothes are just clothes. It's a way for you to express yourself. You might want to dress throwback and put on a jersey and some, relaxed fit jeans and put on some Kobe's from when you first started getting into sneakers, and that's your vibe today.
Yeah.
But you might want to put on a pair of Rick Owens boots and like a big oversized Balenciaga jean with, some crazy jacket because you feeling that. It's expression. And I think we do too much because we are so raw. Like we just expressing our insecurities all over the place.
Yeah.
Instead of it's just fashion, dog. Calm down. It's just fashion. If you don't like what somebody has on, then you move on. But they don't have to acclimate themselves to what makes you comfortable because you're uncomfortable. It's just clothes.
There it is, bro. There it is, bro. Devin, let them know where they can follow you, man.
You can follow me on all social media. I'm on Instagram at Fashion Citizen, Facebook, Fashion Citizen. I'm trying to get into TikTok, so I'm not on there just yet. But yeah,
You need to be on TikTok. You'd actually fit in perfectly.
I'm trying to work myself up to it. I feel old, but I'm trying to do it.
Okay, I got you. I'm old on it, so I understand where you're coming from, bro. Thank you so much, man.
All right, no problem.
Okay, big shouts out to my man Devin, man. I think this is, I know I'm leaving a lot on the table with this conversation, so I think we're gonna continue to have this one, and I think we are gonna have to get into that other side of it. But I just think that conversation deserves a lot of time and a lot of and it's delicate. I don't want to do that one by myself. I definitely want to have guests on for that one. And I definitely want to handle that one with care because I think it should be handled with care. It deserves to be handled with care. So, but again, let me know what you all think about where men's fashion is going. Do you think it's weird Do you love what you're seeing? Let me know. All right. Okay. So before we wrap up the show, I have to address a couple of things. Okay. Last week I made an episode about Ebony K. Williams, her not wanting to date a bus driver, and I expressed that I don't care if she wants to date a bus driver or not. And what I wanted black men to get from this was that you shouldn't either. That you should believe in yourself enough to not have to worry about the opinions of one woman, even if it's a black woman. You should believe in yourself enough to not worry about whether or not you're a bus driver and some reality TV star lawyer, or you want to pull out a clip of Mary J. Blige and T-Boss saying they don't want to date a bus driver. You should believe in yourself enough to know that there are plenty of people that respect what you do, that honor your occupation, and hey, there's plenty of beautiful, intelligent black women that would gladly date a blue collar worker. That's what I wanted to express on last week's show. What some of you fellas heard was, you caping for black women, you simping, I don't deserve to have a podcast, I'm letting women off the hook, there's too many of them, and she's influencing women to not want to. I say, damn, y'all butthurt over this. That's why I was saying earlier, like, I want to say y'all misunderstanding me. And hey, listen, I put out clips of this show. Let me be honest too. I put out clips of this show to get attention to the show. I go through, I try to find the most, provocative clip or the most interesting clip I can find. I put it out in a reel. I'm actually going to change that strategy up. And this is more of a technical thing because I know how people are starting to listen to the show and how people consume media these days. So I'm actually going to be putting clips of the show out. That's just some show news, whatever, if you care about that. But what I was doing before was trying to treat it as an advertisement, especially on Instagram and on TikTok and Facebook. Put out one reel, maybe two. Hopefully it gets your attention. Hopefully you click the link. Now, I'm smart enough. I like to think that I'm smart enough to understand that most people don't click the whole, they don't click the link. They see the clip, you make your opinion from the clip, and then that's that. Okay? And I get that. So I can't be too upset. But even from that clip, I said, just show me you ain't even watching the entire clip. You just saw me go, why do you care? And then got upset and then responded. When we talk like this, we prove a lot of stereotypes. We proving a lot of stereotypes to be true. Making a lot of points for a lot of people. And I hate that. If you want this show, if you want to put content, black men's content, into two categories, simping or non-simping, then don't tune into this. Terms like simping and caping and letting black women off the hook is, fucking whack. It's whack, weak shit. I think black men are stronger than that. I'm not the late Mr. Samuels. I'm not that guy that's just going to get on here and berate black women, and I'm not going to berate black men. In fact, this show is about mental health, black boy joy, I did a whole rant about Black Boy Joy at the end of the show. What I want people to know, what I want people to understand is that you have worth. Just like black women have worth, black men have worth. I hate these stereotypes. I hate this idea. I hate every time I see a clip on name that social platform, a bunch of young ass black people, by the way. These are young 21-year-olds. Bro, I've been podcasting for a long, long time. Okay? For a very long time. Close to 20 years I've been doing what we was calling internet radio back in the day. Okay? Now we call it podcasting. I've been hosting panels. I've had all sorts of dating panels. I made a movie about the relationship between black men and women. That movie came out over 10 years ago. Okay? I've been podcasting, doing my thing for a very, very long time. I promise you, if you pull up a clip from me from 2005, 2006, and my thoughts on dating and my thoughts on a lot of different stuff, I would sound much different than I do today. Because I was in my 20s and I had no life experience. I got life experience now. I got 2 kids up in the joint. I'm married. Okay, to a black woman. She's downstairs kicking it right now with her homegirl, another black woman who's a good friend of ours. I'm surrounded by married couples and also dope single black people. I have life experience. I'm not a 20-year-old sitting on the couch with a microphone going, I feel like if you was going to date somebody with that work a 9 to 5, I feel like they don't hustle enough. No. Or the thing about black women that they need to learn is that you need to be able to respect the dominant man. You see, the dominant man, the alpha man, da-da-da-da. No, that ain't me. That ain't me. I'm not going to cater to none of y'all feelings. Black women or black men. I'm going to say what I feel like is true. And I feel like you shouldn't care that a woman who is on Real Housewives of New York, who is a lawyer, who has a television show, don't want to date your ass. I feel like there's a bunch of bomb women in your life right now that you're probably not thinking about because you're worried about her. Or you're trying to prove a point because you're in a war. You're in a civil war with your own kind. You're in a civil war with black women. I'm telling you guys, I made a movie about a civil war between black men and women 10 plus years ago. This story is old as time. It's old. My mama and her homegirls and the fellas used to be partying in the 80s debating about what black men don't do and what black women don't do. My aunties was talking. This is old. Y'all ain't discovering nothing new. What we should try is loving on each other. So I'm willing to give Ebony K. Williams some grace. I don't care if she was married to dating a white successful man and it didn't work out, so she don't know what she's talking about. I don't care. That's the point. I don't care. What I know and what I've seen through my years of media experience, journalism experience, dealing with African American issues, creating content surrounding African Americans, speaking to black people, all sorts of black people, celebrities, regular Joe Blow. You can't tell me nothing. Sorry, I'm stunting a little bit. I get a salary to do podcasting. I know what I'm talking about. What I would say to you is that the one thing we haven't tried, because it doesn't get clicks, is offering grace. What I said at the end of my movie, which you can check out, it's called I'm Single Because, the undeclared civil war between black men and women. It's on Amazon. It's on Facebook at this point. I'll put it up on this YouTube page if you like. What I said at the end of that movie was, I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm just encouraging you to think. I cannot tell black women what to think. I cannot tell every single black woman, to ignore her own personal dating experience. I can't tell black men what to think. I can't tell every single black man to ignore their personal dating experience. Of course, you're going to be jaded about things if you ain't found the one yet. I get it. The only thing I will tell you is to don't treat the opposite sex, especially someone that's part of your community, like a monolith. That's silly. They don't all think the same. There's some trash black men and there's some trash black women. There's some amazing black men. There's some amazing black women. And then there's a bunch of regular people who make mistakes, who do good things, who have good days and bad days. It's not my job to let black women on or off the hook. It's not my job to let you on or off the hook. All I do is share my experience as a black man who values mental health, who loves black people. Even when we goofy, we dope. I'ma always love you. I volunteered to do this show to just help you think a little bit different. That's all. So I appreciate the comments. Please keep them up. Hey, if you disagree with what I'm saying now, let me know. But I'm going to give you my opinion. And your reaction to this thing that I didn't even want to talk about last week is curious. And I think you can do better. All right. Listen, have you smelled your hair today? Does your hair smell like outside? You need to go get Lock Juice and spray your braids or your locks, afro, or even your beard. Lock Juice is a natural hair freshener made with rose water and essential oils. Perfect for adding moisture and shine. Lock Juice has 12 scents available for all hair types, including herbal, sweet, and earthy scents. Right now you can go to getlockjuice.com. That's getlockjuice.com today and get 25% off while supplies last. Man, I think I'm gonna be like a Ray J meme with this hat, man. I done moved this hat around so many times. I got these bright studio lights. This is why I wear these glasses up in here. Man, it's hot as hell up in here, man. So I appreciate y'all. I'm about to get ready to go because I'm burning up and I got some NBA basketball to watch. So I want to get to it, man. But remember that it's always love, okay? It's always love, man. And I appreciate and thank all of you again for tuning in and supporting this show, man. I bragged a little bit earlier about getting a salary. I do get a salary for podcasting. I got a job in podcasting. I host podcasts, but I don't get a salary to do this one, okay? So I thank anybody that takes the time out to listen to this thing, man. This is something I'm building up. This is something I want to keep going. So thank you. Even if we disagree, thank you for the comments, okay? All right, man. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review to this podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review to this podcast on all podcasting platforms, and really most importantly, go ahead and check out that YouTube, the Butler Did It Podcast Pro. If you're already on here watching on YouTube, subscribe, rate, review, or comment. In this case, rate and comment. Y'all know what to do. Like, comment, do all of the stuff you're supposed to do. Ring the bell, please. It helps with the algorithm, man. And thank you in advance for doing that, okay? Check out the What Are Those podcasts on the Up On Game Network. You're on YouTube right now. When this show's done, just go to the Up On Game Network. You can see the What Are Those show. Episodes come out every Tuesday, and it's on podcasting platforms as well, especially on the iHeartRadio. That's a Fox Sports affiliated, and iHeart affiliated show, all right? And I'm very proud of that. Okay, so, man, I'm going to get ready to get up out of here. Y'all know where to follow me, MSR_Adam, MSR_Adam, Linktree, everything's on there. Please, 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 please remember to mind your mental health. That's the most important thing out of all of this, man. Mind your mental health. Trust me, if you do that, it's going to take you on bridges and fun places that you never thought you can go, okay? Mind your physical health. You can't do nothing without that, okay? Mind your physical health. And ladies and gentlemen, please always remember, please continue to be great. I'm up out of here. Peace.